I'd like to ask you to say, as representative of all of us, anything that you would like to say, and then I'd like at least a minute because the Armenian Genocide Memorial happens to be in District 3, but it really is for all of our districts, Mayor.
Why don't we give it the appropriate time and attention at the end of the meeting, Mr. Kennedy, during announcements, but you're correct that President Biden has recognized the genocide and will make comments at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, with that, let's move on to public comments for matters not on the agenda. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. That was some.
Yes,
No,
we
no.
have, it looks to be 5 public comments, people that have checked in. We have a 6th, but we cannot seem to locate that person. So I'll say to Amy Lyford, if you are going to connect to the meeting, please do, and we'll look for you. We'll move on to Paul Livingstone. And we will bring in Mr. Livingstone and start.
Can you hear me? Thank you. I want to address by just addressing 2 facts about Pasadena. Number 1, we have recurring issues, cycles of violence. Violence is in our past and in our present. Number 2, what we're doing is not working. We're not safer. And insanity is defined by doing the same old thing over and over again and expecting different results. This to me is what Pasadena policing is looking like. Look, I've been here for 40 years. I run an organization called the Soul Force Project. Our mission is to confront violence with the power of music and creative action. I went to Longfellow Elementary, Elliott and John Muir High School. I've traveled the world as a musician. I come back because this is my home. When I was 13 years old, I was beat by the Altadena sheriff. I see that today, and much worse in Altadena, was the treatment of Christopher Ballou at the hands of Pasadena police at the gas station right by my house on Fair Oaks. And I did watch the video of Anthony McLean. And I cried at the lack of humanity in this officer who shot him in the back and then held a gun to his head while he's bleeding to death on the sidewalk. And I mourn today that my hometown, this place I love so much, this great city, is willing to accept this here in 2021 after all that we've been through, especially Black and brown Americans, through 400 bloody years of history, that Pasadena would justify taking an innocent man's life, a father, a brother, Anthony McLean, in cold blood. We say his name because his life mattered. His kid matters. His name will change us if we allow it, if we do choose to change. And we're not dead inside ourselves, so this should change us. The question we need to ask ourselves, Pasadena, is this: are we going to choose the way of the Pontius Pilates who ask, what is truth? And for political expediency, wash the hands off our blood, wash the blood off our hands, and retreat to our places of privilege and security? Or are we going to walk in the way of the Martin Kings who say, no, the violence must end now. We can put our foot down, not in a half-hearted, cobbled together way, but in a real vital commitment to change the kinds of actions that this city will be peaceful for all people. This is the time we can choose to rise up in courage, or we will continue to fall down in fear. I know every day we're seeing Black men and women killed in this country. I know that together we can do the right thing for all the people of Pasadena and Altadena. That's why we founded Dena United Coalition for Racial Justice. We want to see an end to this violence. Please join us. Thank you for listening.
The next speaker will be Arden Thomas, followed by, Abigail Morgan, followed by Arden Thomas, followed by Alan Shea.
Morgan?
Ms. Morgan?
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a business owner in the city of Pasadena. I'm a local resident and a mother of 2. And I'm speaking today because I'm deeply concerned about the lack of police accountability in our beautiful city. I'd like to know why Officer Edwin McClendon, the officer who killed Anthony McLean, still has his job. I don't understand why he has not been fired and prosecuted under AB 392, which I understand requires the deadly force only be used in situations in which it's necessary and no other options are available. AB 392 was supposed to be a breakthrough in the way policing is done and to result in fewer killings by the police. That has not happened. So far, the bill has only been cited once to prosecute a police officer in San Diego who shot and killed a white man. As you know, Pasadena community members like myself who are concerned about racial justice have protested, signed petitions, we've written letters. We still see no signs of accountability in this case. It was not necessary to use deadly force on Anthony McClain. He is no longer here. So why isn't our city making use of AB 392? This bill must be permitted to do its work to deliver justice for Anthony, his family, the community of Pasadena. Nothing can bring him back, but let's do better and end the cycle of violence. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Arden Thomas, followed by Alan Shea, followed by Sophie McGaw.
Hi, this is Arden Thomas. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. I'm also calling to talk about Anthony McClain. I teach at a high school in Pasadena, and I live in the area, and I have 2 kids. And I'm just very concerned about the situation with Anthony McClain and how he was killed by the police here in Pasadena. I'm thinking a lot about how it's so similar to George Floyd's killing. The video of Anthony McClain shows that there was an officer who did not de-escalate and who was not under any immediate threat, but who chose to take another man's life. Anthony McClain was running away from the officer, and he was not advanced struggling, he was not pointing a weapon, and he was running away. This means it was not necessary for Officer Edwin Dimagoodan to use deadly force. They saw a Black man running, and his first instinct was to shoot. This cannot be how Pasadena defines public safety. We must do better. I believe there should be accountability for this killing, and I really want us to reflect on this killing in the way that we've thought so much about George Floyd and the accountability for the police officer in that case. Thank you so much for hearing me speak.
Thank you, Ms. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Alan Shea, followed by Sophie McGaw. Mr. Shea, could you unmute and begin your...
Mr. Shea, you're welcome. Alan, you need to, you're muted.
We can, we'll put Alan back into the queue, and I'll have my staff call him and try and correct his issue. And we can move on to Sophie McGaw.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. McGaw, welcome.
Hello, my name is Sophie McGaw. I grew up in Pasadena and I'm a resident of this area. I'm calling today because I really want to ask that you remove Chief Perez for his department's cover-up of Anthony McClain's death and for his recent declaration that officers were acting appropriately in their brutal beating of Christopher Ballou during a traffic stop in Altadena. Not far from my home is the street where Officer Edwin Dimagoodan shot and killed Anthony McClain. This is not public safety. Police officers killing and beating my Black neighbors and then claiming it was justified does not make me feel safe. What would make me feel safe is to use some of the millions of dollars we currently allocate to policing and incarceration and use it to flood the community with social services. What would also make me feel safe is to see consequences for Chief Perez and any and all police chiefs who cannot get their officers to end racial profiling and the targeted use of deadly force against Black men. For this reason, it is time for Chief John Perez to be fired. and for Officer Edwin Doom McGuinn to be fired and prosecuted under AB 392. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. McGaw.
And we'll try to bring in Alan Shea one more time and see if he can unmute. Mr. Shea, can you hear us?
Right.
Yes.
Hear me? Thank you.
Time starts now.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Porto and City Council members. As each and every one of you know, I'm a City Commissioner of Northwest Pasadena. I've served this position for 10 years. And in that capacity for 10 years, the focus has been to create measurable approaches to deal with accountability as it relates to our police department. And I want to just thank Mr. Dean Masuda, who's given me this opportunity to really dig deep into this matter. And I've done so to reveal the corruption of the Pasadena Police Department. The videos clearly show Anthony McClain did not have a gun. It clearly shows that the city of Pasadena Police Department brought the gun into the crime scene. And it also showed that Anthony McClain ran down the street and dropped his cell phone in front of the house in which a bullet was lodged into the house that went through Anthony McClain. These things are clearly on the video that was provided by Pasadena Police Department and is on their website if someone were to look and break each frame down and look at it. It's there. We've given the leadership of Pasadena significant time so we as residents are not burdened and continue to be viewed as someone who's disrespecting the climate in our history at this moment. So my commitment to this community is about truth. And if we don't provide the leadership of truth, then we're all going to be held accountable. So I am putting this in the hands of our city council members to fire John Perez. He has put on narratives that are not true. There's nothing that John Perez has said that is corroborated in the video. There's absolutely nothing. And with that in mind, if we have our police chief that is putting out that type of information, it's a reflection of our city and the residents of the city, and it's time for a change. So I hope that our city manager understands this and those who are elected so that we can move forward with action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Does that complete public comment?
It does. We weren't able to locate the other speaker, so that completes public comment on matters not on the agenda.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Hampton?
30 seconds, I'll be very brief. I have to say that I don't agree with the statements of firing the police chief, but I do agree with the statements about lack of accountability. There has been no accountability in Christopher Blue's matter. He beat a man to where he breaks his leg, and after video after video after I've seen, he put his hands behind his back. He's getting hit by a baton. I just don't understand how you comply if you keep on getting hit by a baton. Reginald Thomas, yeah, our police officers went in and they did something notable. They went in with less than lethal means, but they beat the man while he was in restraints and he died. Okay, a man died. Anthony McClain shot twice in the back as he's running from the police. We have a narrative that the gun was shown in the video, we still haven't even corrected that by saying, that was his belt buckle. The gun that they found was matte black. I've never seen matte black shine by light. Never. That's the purpose of having matte black. That's the narrative, right? So if we have this narrative out here, that narrative should be cleared up. The narrative is also, the city has also basically made this man a criminal, and it made it okay for him to get shot in cold blood by the police as he's running at full speed down the street. I agree with each and every speaker. We have to do something different. And that's just not at our police department, but that's also when it comes to the safety in our parks. right? So there has to be a level of accountability. And I get the fact that police officers need due process, but so do the 3 men that I just mentioned. They didn't get their due process, they're dead, except one. And he had a broken leg, and he's probably traumatized for the rest of his life. So there's been no accountability. And I don't know at this point if it's the city manager or who we have to hold accountable at this point. There's got to be accountability across the board. If you can get pulled over for having tinted windows and be a passenger of the car and get shot in the back and killed by the police, be a passenger, not the driver, a passenger of the car, and there's no accountability. There was accountability for having tinted windows, though. So anyway, I'm just saying that I have said this before. I will say this over and over and over again, and I appreciate the community for continuously putting the pressure and continuously bringing light to this, because it's not right. It's just very simple. It's just not right. It's not fair, because no one else is treated this way besides 3 African-American men. And at the end of the day, they're American men. And we should treat all American men and all men in America, on the soil of America, with just common decency and fairness. Thank you so much, Mayor, for giving me the time. I'm sorry that was longer than 30 seconds, everybody.
Now we'll get to the consent calendar.
Mayor, I just would announce that related to item 8, it has been sent to me that Richard McDonald, his nomination is being, oh, sorry, I let Mr. Madison speak for him, so.
Mr. Madison?
Yeah, I think what I'd like to do is pull item 8, and then I can address comments. I think
Sure.
also, if you could hold item 8, and I'd make a sweep on the remaining.
There are 2 speaker cards for item 2.
Okay, why don't we take those before we proceed with the sweep motion?
Okay, the first speaker is My Tribe Rise, Heavenly Hues. And then I think on the same call is Victor Hodgson. So first, we'll hear from Ms. Hughes.
Hughes?
Hi, my name is Heavenly Hughes. Can you hear me? It looks like you all, somehow it says agenda 2, but I'm here to give a public comment. First off, again, my name is Heavenly Hughes. I was born and raised in Altadena. I agree with all that I've heard with the public comments that the Pasadena Police Chief Perez should hold his officers accountable, and if he's not able to do that, he should be fired. Most of my family live in Pasadena and/or Altadena. And Pasadena, California needs lawmakers and law enforcement officers who thrive to be right standing. We understand that, and I guess you all understand that the law and policies of this justice system is like bleach. It works great on white, but damages colors. And I just feel like it's been enough of our Black Americans right here in Pasadena being shot and killed and brutally beat. Chief Perez knows that the laws and policies that are there are killing our Black men, Black women, and our Black children. And those laws and policies, I've even heard him admit, need to be changed. But we need lawmakers and law officers that stand by right standing, not just by these laws and policies that we know is damaging and taking away and snatching the lives of our Black and Brown community. Thank you so much, council members. Thank you so much, Mayor Victor Gordo, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Heavenly. Just for the record, the comments by Ms. Hughes were for matters not on the agenda. And Mr. Hodgson, I take it your comments will be as well.
And you know what, can I just let him speak from my phone? Oh, also, I just want to be sure that we ask that the, as a matter of fact, he said I can use his time. He asked that we agendize Chris Ballou and Anthony McLean so that this conversation can be discussed with the community. And also, there was one other thing that since Victor Hodson is allowing me to use his time.
But you have 30 seconds left in your original allotment.
Oh, I see. So that's what I want to be sure is that Chris Ballou and Anthony's case is agendized so this can be discussed at the city council meetings. And also I want to say that I would like for the city council to nominate Florence, I call her Florence A, and also.
That's for an item on the agenda.
Okay, I don't know if you have me down to speak on that item, but I would like to.
Okay, we can move you to that item when it comes up.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Peace and blessings. My tribe rise.
Thank you. Mr. Hodson, welcome.
Just one moment.
Yes, hello, this is Victor Hodson.
Okay, welcome.
Hello, welcome. Hello, Victor Gordo.
Let them know what you want to say.
Yes, I just want to say, in regards to what Heavenly was saying and others, I do agree that Mr. McLean was shot down in cold blood. I do believe, in speaking with Mr. Perez, that he's a great individual. He's a very nice individual person, but I think he needs to be held accountable and hold his officers accountable to the lawlessness and the slaying of young Black men in our community. Thank you for my time. I'll end it short.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That completes the comment now on matters not on the agenda.
So returning to the consent calendar, there's a motion to pull item 8 and proceed with the balance of the consent calendar. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kennedy. Roll call.
So on the consent calendar, except for item 8, Councilmember Hampton,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Madison,
Yes.
Councilmember Masuda,
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gordo.
Yes.
Motion is approved without opposition.
On item 8, Mr. Madison, you asked the matter be held. Do you want to make?
I appreciate the opportunity and apologize for the inconvenience, but I had initially indicated an intention to appoint Richard McDonald. Richard has withdrawn his application, and so I now am nominating Jeff Baum to serve on the Redistricting Commission. I think you all should have received an email, and I'm grateful to the clerk for this today with Jeff's application. Simply put, Jeff's outstanding in every way. He's served the city and the community in a variety of capacities. He has specific experience with regard to redistricting from his time at the Pasadena City College Board of Trustees. So I'm proud to and grateful to present as the District 6 nominee.
Thank you. And we'll let the record reflect that Mr. McDonald withdrew his application. Mr. Baum is stepping in as the district representative. Is there a motion, Mr. Madison?
Certainly, I'd move the item number 8.
Okay. It's been seconded. Mr. Wilson, Vice Mayor Wilson, is roll call, please.
Councilmember Hampton,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Madison,
Yes.
Councilmember Masuda,
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gordo.
Yes.
The motion is unanimously approved.
Okay, thank you, and thank you to all those who have agreed to serve Redistricting is an important task that the city takes on every 10 years. And I'd like to welcome each of the members, including the chair of the task force, Vince Barhat, and the vice chair, Rita Moreno. Thank you, everyone, and we look forward to the recommendations of the task force. We'll move on to item 12. Been pulled, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly mention for those watching and for the council. Late last week, we know from the prior council meeting, this item was scheduled to be heard by the council, and it was continued for 1 week at the request of Councilmember Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy had raised a number of concerns regarding the proposed change in regulations. He had a conversation with you. You asked that I speak with Mr. Kennedy. I did. And after speaking with the council member, agreed that a number of the points he was raising in regard to the distance separation proposal, number of retailers per district, the potential impact of the impending redistricting effort, that warranted some additional consideration. And since this matter was brought forward by the staff at my direction, I consulted with the city clerk and the city attorney about the appropriate way to handle it. It was agreed that, in effect, I am sort of the applicant and I can withdraw the application. So that is what I did. And that's why the matter is not being presented this afternoon. Certainly the council may decide to bring the item back at any future date in whatever form it wishes. But as for today, there is no staff recommendation. This is largely an issue related to the timing of when to best revisit how our regulations have worked in practice. Thank you.
I know that a couple of members of council have asked questions about this. And I think it's probably a good idea to revisit the regulations and have EdTech review regulations, including lessons learned, best practices in other communities. I know Mr. Hampton has been interested in the issue of social equity, and it might be a good opportunity to revisit this issue at EdTech as part of the committee process.
Mayor,
so I would look.
I have a question.
I'd note that there were 2 letters were received expressing concerns involving the city clerk in the canceled public hearing on the proposed amendments to the city's cannabis regulations, and those letters were distributed to the city council, posted online. One of them was posted, unfortunately, under the wrong item, but we reposted it. It's been posted online and is now part of the record for this canceled public hearing.
Okay. Mr. Hampton, did you have a response as chair of the committee?
I would gladly accept that, and we'll definitely have the discussion at EdTech and bring something back to the full council. I do have a question just about the process in general. So this item was requested to come back by the council and it was voted on. Doesn't the council have to unvote this? I mean, can someone just pull it off? I mean, I'm just not aware of how that works. I mean, there was a motion, there was a public hearing set date. It was voted on by the full city council. It's not like a subcommittee voted on this and then it was full. It was actually the full city council voted on this.
Mr. Hampton, this is Michelle Bonarise. And as the city manager said, the city manager initiated the application. And with that, when the application is withdrawn, there isn't really anything for the council to consider because the public hearing would then be canceled. It's kind of like the council no longer had it because it was a withdrawn application. But the council could determine to vote to place something on a future agenda.
That's really confusing, but I mean, we literally voted on it. So if it was an action that was voted by the council to have a discussion about, shouldn't the council vote to not have that discussion?
Not if there's not an application to consider.
And
There is an
Councilmember,
application.
another way to look at it
I'm
is
sorry, there is an application.
this-
1 second. I was actually talking to Ms. Monteris right now. There is an application to consider because that's what we voted on bringing back. That's the application.
You voted
The
on.
application is, it's not like it's, I'm sorry, I'm very confused by this rationale. I mean, someone's gonna have to really explain this. The application was brought up, okay, by the city manager, right? There's a city staff report, right? This is not I mean, you're making it seem like it's a property and the property owner decided, oh, I'm no longer going to do that work. This work has already been done by staff. We have a report. It's public record, that public report. And we voted on a public hearing to come back to us. So wouldn't the council have to vote on removing it? It's not an applicant because the city manager works for the city council. It's the city. You're making him sound like a private entity. He's not.
Councilmember, as I was going to suggest, another way to think of this is exactly what happened. I'm withdrawing the staff recommendation.
You can't, I don't see how you can withdraw, anyone could withdraw any staff recommendation that the council voted on actually hearing. That's what I'm trying to get at. The actual council voted to hear this. It gave a date and time that they were going to hear it.
As I indicated in my comments, the council may decide to agendize the item at any time it sees fit. As I understood what the mayor suggested, he's suggesting that the matter be directed to the EdTech subcommittee. That is certainly a way to proceed, or the council could vote to agendize.
Mayor,
I think we're better served. Mr. Hampton, I get the point, and you know, I was not aware that the agenda had been changed until after it was printed. That's a different issue that I've taken up with the city clerk and the city manager. But you know, the changing of the agenda, I mean, the city manager is correct. We could vote to bring the matter back directly to the council, or we could ask that the council subcommittee that has jurisdiction over this matter review the matter, and then if it has a recommendation, come back to us. At that point, you'll have the opportunity to review the staff's work, as well as any lessons learned, any adjustments, any issues that may surface as a result of the review. That's what I'm suggesting as the appropriate, and timing, the issue of timing. That's what I'm suggesting as the appropriate course. I don't disagree with
and
you.
I'm fine with that. I was just, you know, the principle of it to me. So I'm just trying to understand the rationale behind, you know, removing something that a council voted on. I'm fine with bringing it to EdTech and fine with, you know, and I was actually thinking that this agenda report.
I think your point is well taken. I think it's a procedural issue, but it's an important procedural issue. Once an item appears on a council agenda, then it becomes a matter of who has or does not have the authority to change what the timing of a matter when the council has voted to continue it. And so that's something that I'll be discussing with the city attorney. I'm not convinced that the procedure that was selected here couldn't be better defined, and we can have some clarity so that this doesn't occur going forward. Mr. Madison's been waiting, then Councilmember Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just be brief. You know, I try to always shoot straight, and I too was disappointed with the way this was handled. I think this was more than just a sort of an application. It was a review of a regulatory scheme that's been quite controversial and may relate to litigation and important public policies. And there's a feeling that because of the impending deadline for applications under that public policy scheme, that a substantive result on the merits is the outcome here, because this council can't now act on that regulatory scheme as we were intending to do. I also, just full disclosure, I happen to think that there was a lot of merit to the staff's recommendation, especially in terms of awarding cannabis licenses based on city council districts. Because I don't think there's anybody who drives around the city and says, you're now leaving District 3 and entering District 7 or 6 and 1 or any of that. So, but I don't want to get too much into the merits because I know we're not discussing it. And by the way, that was a first. It says on the agenda, no discussion allowed. Well, that's just like raising or waving a red flag at a city council, when it's an important policy matter. But I've expressed I have no doubt that the city manager and the city attorney and the city clerk, as always, are trying to act in the complete best interest of the city and helping the council, do its job. I was disappointed in this particular outcome.
Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe the timing for it going to ed tech, it would be good to see what the revenue impact is of I think the two opened like around December or so. So maybe if ed tech is timed like for 6 months, then you could at least have some sort of revenue idea of the tax impacts. That would be really good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, this Mr. Kennedy did call me and express concerns about the city manager's proposal, and as I would with any other member of the council, I discussed the matter with him and suggested that because this was a city manager proposal, that he raised those issues with the city manager. Where I was caught by surprise, as many of you were, is the change in the agenda and the language associated with the change. No discussion to take place, as well as not being made aware before the agenda was changed. But again, that's a separate issue. So with that, we'll refer the matter to EdTech and have in mind some of the issues that have been raised, as well as the city manager's recommendation. Mr. Kennedy?
Mayor, what would be the appropriate way in which to share with the chair of EdTech ongoing concerns? I think the chair of EdTech rightly raised through you what you shared earlier, concerns about social equity, but there are also other concerns, and I'd like to know what your view is on how we could share that with the chair with a level of hope that that committee would have that discussion as well as they deliberate.
I'll look to the city attorney, but the appropriate way may be to just outline any issues that you would like, or any other member of the council would like to have the committee review as just that issue statements that you would like to have reviewed. But again, I'll look to the city attorney.
Yes, it would be a problem under the Brown Act for other members of the council to convey their opinions and requests through some out of the public hearing, or not public hearing, I stuck on that. The public meeting process for the full city council. I do know that staff can receive information and and review information and kind of cull through various views, but you do have to be careful with a quorum of the council communicating ideas outside of the city council meeting process.
Michelle, Councilmember Williams just raised the issue of revenue that might be helpful for her. Wouldn't it be appropriate for Mr. Kennedy or any other member of the council to forward to the committee staff areas such as revenue or distance requirements that a member of the council wants to ensure are addressed by the committee as this matter is reviewed?
We'd have to be very careful with how that's done, so it won't be an effort to develop a concurrence among the council.
Mayor, what I would like to do to speed this matter along, there are a number of questions I've already raised. Some are in the public domain. The ones that were not appropriate were redacted. It'd be sufficient, in my opinion, if I could somehow raise those that are in the public domain and have Ed Tech review those. And would it be appropriate, City Attorney, for those to be forwarded by the city clerk or your office to Councilmember Hampton?
Yes, you can give that to the city clerk and he can distribute it to all the council members.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 13. Public hearing designation of the houses at 840 and 842 North Fair Oaks Avenue as a landmark. And I believe this is a pretty straightforward recommendation. You've all had the opportunity to review the report. If there are questions, or do we want a full presentation?
Mayor, I'll open the public hearing by saying this is the time and place for the public hearing on the designation of houses at 840 to 842 North Fair Oaks Avenue as a landmark. 35 copies of the public hearing notice were posted on April 13th, 2021, and 100 copies of the notice were mailed on April 12th, 2021. One letter of correspondence was received in favor of this item, which has been distributed to the City Council, posted online, and made part of the official record for tonight's meeting.
Thank you.
Mayor, if it's acceptable to my colleagues, I'd just like to move the item. As you said already, it's fairly straightforward. We're always happy as a council when owners bring matters of this type to us, and staff has generally, if not almost always, done their due diligence in making sure that the particular structure meets the qualifications for the designation. So I'd happily move the matter.
Okay, motion by Mr. Kennedy to close the public hearing first, and seconded by Mr. Masuda.
I'd move the primary action, Mayor.
Let's do one at a time. Is roll call on closing the hearing?
Councilmember Hampton.
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilmember Madison.
Yes.
Councilmember Masuda.
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Mayor Gordo.
Yes.
The public hearing is closed. Mayor, I
Move
believe we
approval
have
of
a motion by Mr. Kennedy to approve.
On merits, moved by Mr. Kennedy to approve. Okay. Moved by Mr. Kennedy, seconded. Roll call.
To approve the staff recommendation, Councilmember Hampton.
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilmember Madison.
Yes.
Councilmember Masuda.
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Mayor Gordo.
Yes.
Staff recommendation is approved unanimously.
Thank you. And by the way, congratulations on this renovation project. If you've not had an opportunity to drive by this project, very well done, very fitting of both the Doan and Penny homes. You should all drive by if you have an opportunity to see it firsthand. Thank you and congratulations. Next, we'll move on to item 14, designation of the house at 371 Patrician Way. This is the Staunton House, and this is a recommendation to make it a landmark. Opening the public hearing.
Time and place for the public hearing on the designation of the house at 371 Patrician Way, the Staunton House, as a landmark. 52 copies of the public hearing notice were posted on April 13th, 2021. 23 copies of the public hearing notice were mailed on April 12th, 2021. And again, the same letter that was received for the earlier item was related to this item and was in support of the item. And that was distributed to the city council, posted online, and made part of the official record for tonight's item.
Mayor, I would have a similar dual motions as my colleague, Mr. Kennedy, on this Staunton House on Patrician Way. I think it's excellent proposal and should be granted by the council.
Yeah, absolutely.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Kennedy. Roll call.
Councilmember Hampton,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Madison,
Yes.
Councilmember Masuda,
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson. Oh, sorry, Vice Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
He recognized that.
I think he was waiting for that. Mayor Gordo?
Yes.
Motion is approved without opposition, so the public hearing is closed.
I move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Mr. Kennedy. Councilmember Hampton?
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes.
Councilmember Madison?
Yes.
Councilmember Masuda?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson?
I'm sorry, Mark? Yeah. Yes.
Mayor Gordo?
Yes.
Motion is approved without opposition.
And again, this is just a beautiful home. Congratulations to the occupants and owners. Just a gem of a home, beautiful. So with that, that recommendation is approved, and we'll move on to item 15.
So, Mayor, as we have all 5 applicants, we've brought them to City Hall. As the council decides on how to move forward on this item, I will report out the correspondence received when it's the appropriate time. And then as the council directed, each of the applicants is prepared to deliver 2-minute remarks to the council. So we will have one applicant in the room at a time, and the other 4 will be sequestered back in the staff offices. The staff did a random drawing with the applicants to see who would go first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. First would be Florence Annang. Second would be Patrice McKenzie. Third would be Mikala Rhan. Fourth, Juliana Serrano. And last would be Alexis Abernathy. So that would be the order of presentations for the 2 minutes. So wait to hear the council's pleasure on how to proceed.
Yeah, so I trust you've all listened to, if you had the opportunity to listen to the first round of interviews by the Public Safety Committee. familiarize yourself with all of the applicants and the applications, as well as the proceedings before public safety. We've asked
The mayor's glitching a little bit.
for questions or comments.
Mayor, you cut out there. I'm not sure if you can hear me. The good thing is,
Should just jump right into it.
maybe come to his office and check on his. You were glitching a little there, Mayor, so you cut out.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, my internet is unstable here today. So I was suggesting that we jump.
Maybe turn off your video.
Mark?
Are you listening? Either you want to come to the camera?
Yeah.
We could use one of those things, we have the string and the old telephone where.
I got that.
Tell the mayor we already have made the 3 appointments when he comes back.
I was going to say to all those that want public ran Wi-Fi, here's what happens.
Sorry, everyone. My internet's not cooperating in the office, so I'm here in the council chambers, and I'm suggesting that we jump right in, unless there are any questions from members of the council, that we jump right into the presentations, the 2-minute presentations by each applicant. If that's acceptable.
I have a question, Nate. I think it would be good, just out of respect to the candidates and to the public, there are a lot of people online, and to the council and the staff, to outline what the voting process is going to be before, so we can decide before we hear from the candidates. So are we voting 3 at a time, 1 at a time? Are we doing motions for each one individually? How are we going to vote on them? Thanks.
Well, we can decide that. The plan was to take each applicant 1 at a time, but if there are other suggestions, we can entertain those. Mr. Madison?
Yeah, I had a similar question to Councilmember Williams, and that was about voting. I also had a question about the process with the applicants. At public safety, we had a 2-minute statement, or it might have been a longer statement, if I recall.
It was
But
longer,
then,
it was 5 minutes.
okay, then we had a round of questions. Is the expectation that the council will question the applicants tonight or not?
No, I think we covered the questions during public safety pretty broadly.
Okay.
It was my hope that people would review those if you're not a member of public safety. 4 of us are. And certainly if there are follow-up questions, but there's no grouping of set questions like we had at public safety.
So then my concern about the voting was that public safety, it became a little bit of a moving target in that we were sort of proceeding the way we normally do on simpler sort of binary questions. There was a motion of 3, and then we each went around and talked about our 3, but then members started changing their 3 after they heard what other members said. I really would recommend that we each communicate when we're ready to make the appointment, that we each communicate to the city clerk by email or text our 3 choices. And then the city clerk can tabulate that and say, here's what it looks like right now.
You can't really do that offline. It's like polling outside of the public view.
Well, I know if we were sitting in the dais, we could certainly write out 2 names and hand a piece of paper over to be read. I don't know why we couldn't do that.
One thought might be that if everyone wrote out 3 names and held them up at the same time, that would be one way we could tally while looking at each of you over Zoom.
I just think the problem is it sort of becomes a food fight, and whoever talks last has the advantage of getting, additional. And I mean no disrespect to the mayor. Normally the mayor goes last, but in this process, anybody can just keep talking and ask to be recognized, and it sort of disfavors the earlier council members and gives those whose names are lower in terms of the order or something an advantage that seems inappropriate.
What I think Mr. Johnsky was saying was everyone holds them up at the same time.
Can I propose an alternative, Steve?
Of course.
Just like the way we did Victor's seat that was vacated, to just have motions for the members. So similar to the appointment of the District 5 council member. We heard the interviews and then we put forth motions. We discussed and then we put forth motions. Does that work?
Well, we have to appoint 3. That's my concern. So I guess it seems sophomoric to me to have to hold up a piece of paper to the screen, that we couldn't do that electronically. But if that's the advice, I think that's best.
Ms. Williams, are you suggesting that we just take each candidate one at a time and have a motion?
No, I suggest just having a motion. Once we're done listening, we'll close that portion and then people make motions for the different candidates based on what your top 3 are, and then until we get to 3.
I'm fine with that. I think that's the process that we
It's got to be transparent.
had intended and
Okay.
used previously. Mr. Madison?
Yeah, that's the food fight. That's where then people can react and counter-react, and then I just think we should all say, here's our choice, and see where there's commonality and where there's not. And I think the other thing that's a bit unseemly is, and I made this same point even when it was just one for Council Member Rivas's position, I was always a strong supporter of Councilman Rivas through the appointment, but that forces motions then where you have to tell people no. And I think, frankly, all these candidates are qualified. I think we should aim to say yes to 3 that we can all agree on, not no to anybody.
There'll still be 3 people who are appointed and 2 who are not. I get the distinction. Anyone else?
Mayor, thank you, Mayor. In the Public Safety Committee, even though now we are here for whatever reason, I thought it was fairly effective. 4 members of the council participated. I have no problem with sharing after all 5 candidates have shared with us why they're the best for this particular position, determining which 3 that I would like to put forth for the clerk to tabulate and see if in fact we have 5 votes, for at least 5 votes for each of the 3 candidates who obviously would be successful. I think it's also public disclosure. There's no problem with that. It's on the record, and I don't see any reason why we couldn't proceed that way. Obviously, you have the chair, and I respect that. But I have no problem with what we did in public safety. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Rivas?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I would add as a spectator of the Public Safety Committee, I think if we could all agree up front to, I guess, withhold discussion and just put up our three, or just speak aloud our three and go around, and then we can tabulate and go from there. That would be my suggestion.
Anyone else? Mr. Masuda?
I'm not sure that Steve Madison said what I'm going to say. That I think he said that if we start naming or making nominations early, Steve, you correct me if I heard this wrong. That the ones that get nominations early have the big advantage, because most likely we will not say no for nominations on the early. If we went through all five, Steve, did you mean that?
I did. I think that's part of the problem. And then the members, council members, then can react to that and change their preferences. I am fine with Councilmember Rivas's suggestion that we just state it, but we agree in good faith. We're going to state our three and not sort of do a straw poll as we're going. And we should all, in good faith, decide which three we each would appoint.
I think I could support that.
I think that's a balance that most of us can live with. Mr. Wilson, Vice Mayor Wilson.
I just want to make sure there's an opportunity, and I don't know where this would happen. Some of my fellow council members have deeper knowledge of these candidates, and I definitely want to have an opportunity to hear either their assessment or their enthusiasm. How does that get captured here? I know, once again, I watched the videos of the five candidates, but some of these candidates I don't know personally at all, and I know people on this council do, and I respect my peers, and so I want to make sure there's an opportunity if they want to say something on behalf of a candidate. I would welcome it. So I don't know if that's part of the process or not.
Yeah, members of the council are free to share their views. I think the first step, as I understand it, is we would first express support or identify the three individuals for each council member. Each council member would, and then we would have a discussion. Or are you suggesting, Mr. Wilson, that we first have that discussion before?
I think we could get to the candidates, but before we take any votes, I would ask if people want to share additional perspective that we have the benefit of our peers publicly.
So why don't we agree to proceed that way? And we'll first start with presentation. Then we'll take any comments from members of the council.
Did you not, the public as well? So maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So maybe we have the presentations. We have about 20 speaker cards submitted to speak. So maybe we have presentations, public comments, and then the council can start to deliberate, and then you can proceed to the three names, everybody calling out the three names.
So if we
I had a question about the process. Is however you guys want to go about the process. I can tell you my first three. That's how it was done in public safety. The public comments in public safety, we gave a minute, and I was just wondering if that will be the same here.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think this matter has been fully vetted a couple of times, and so I think a minute is more than sufficient time for people to make their opinion. Great. And there are some, are there written communications, Mark?
Yes, I can read that out now, or did you want to go through the?
Let's go to the presentations.
And then I will read out the comments received. I'll tally that all up, and then have the public comment, and then we'll go to deliberations.
Good.
Mayor and staff, are you aware that there's a huge echo as you speak?
Not in the council chamber.
We are now. May just be you, John.
Well, I'd ask my colleagues if they're hearing what I'm hearing. It's an echo. It's not a,
I'll move farther away from the mayor.
It's not the first
we've already
time our clerk
seen that.
mayor sat in
Thanks, Mayor.
this distance. Okay, so hopefully that helps, Mr. Kennedy. I'm not sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, it does, Mayor.
So we'll move on to start with the presentations. Ms. Rhan, welcome. Now you're gonna sing a Pepsi commercial.
Amen.
Okay, the timer in front of you, Flo, the lights will, up behind the screen.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. My journey of police reform started at the table of COP, where Juliana Serrano was already doing the work. This was after an intense NAACP meeting on Kendrick McDade. I wanted to and knew I needed to learn more. LA Metro's first Public Safety Committee this year appointed myself and another resident of Pasadena, and both of us sit at the table of COP, who has been doing the grassroots work of police reform in Pasadena for over 7 years. I was told our work of police reform was an asset we brought to the table to send a clear message that there was not going to be an agenda from the Metro Board to say that they were controlling the narrative at the table. They needed people who had been in the trenches and understood the task of police reform, ensuring to all communities in LA that their voices were being heard and included by those they knew understood their story. These 3 POC seats must be filled with people who reflect the community and are known in the community, and that is most impacted by police injustices and brutality for their work of police reform and social justice issues. As I address a majority people of color city council with our first Hispanic mayor, when the next critical incident happens, and it will every 15 months, that at the table will be residents and organization representatives chosen who are rooted in Pasadena doing the street and policy work in community for police reform, and that this is the highest priority for the council in choosing these 3 POC seats. I sit at the table of these organizations, NAACP, PEPEC, CCOP, and Pasadena Young Leaders. Pasadena can no longer be the city that makes excuses but takes full responsibility of every single police officer it employs action through a transparent, community heard, and understood process. I stand here as the NAACP representative for those who have forever been silenced. Anthony McClain, Reginald Thomas, Leo Verhato, Kendrick McDade, Leroy Barnes. There is many I have not remembered, yet their families will never forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Flo. Any follow-up questions? Seeing none. I'll ask Flo to exit the council chambers and our next candidate. Thank you, Flo. Patrice, welcome. So you'll have 2 minutes, and the city clerk will let you know when your time starts. And the yellow light is, how many seconds?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Okay, speak into the mic because the audio is having some issues outside, but we can hear you. Are you ready? Okay. You may may start now.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and to the people of Pasadena, good evening. I am Patrice McKenzie, a PUSD graduate, Deputy Chief of Staff to LAUSD Board Member George McKenna, and immediate past president of the Pasadena chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. It is important to me to serve on this commission because we need to include the voices of real people in our community impacted by violence. AKA has been involved for several years through various partnerships and collaborations to advance our community engagement, grassroots organizing, and the very advocacy that led to the establishment of this commission. I am a Black woman raised in this community. I can speak to the lived experiences of Black families in Pasadena who have been impacted by police violence, the criminalization of poverty, and the subsequent erosion of public trust for law enforcement. While I, on behalf of Alpha Kappa Alpha, represent all stakeholders in Pasadena, it is important to be intentional in amplifying the voices of Black people on this deliberative body. The people who are closest to the pain should be closest to the power. I want to lay a path to transformation in the quality of our police-community relationships with the Pasadena Police Department. I only have one agenda, and that is to execute my vision of bringing a community voice to the process of restoring public trust and community while embracing accountability, transparency, fairness, and truth as core values. Again, I am Patrice McKenzie, POW PUSD resident, proud Pasadena resident, and a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, asking for your yes vote to be appointed to the Pasadena Police Oversight Commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrice. Questions, follow-up questions from our members of the council? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks. We'll ask Ms. McKenzie to step out and allow the next speaker to come into the chambers. It's a lot easier to run these meetings when there's no other member of the council present. Oh, sorry, is that my microphone? Ms. Rhan, welcome.
Does a buzzer actually go off? Okay. Okay.
So you'll have 2 minutes.
Got it.
The city clerk will let you know when your time starts, and when the yellow light comes on, 1 minute.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mikala Rhan, founder of Learning Works Charter School and Chief of Education and Research at Homeboy Industries. Both organizations support my nomination for this community-based organization seat, which aligns with our mission. We can't do what we do without good community policing. And this role allows me to grow as a community and organizational leader and give back to the community I live in and work in. I want to point out the obvious. I am white, that I've worked with only people of color for the past 15 years in my capacity at Learning Works. My lens and mission has always been about the poor, who, yes, are disproportionately African American and Latino, which also means they're disproportionately affected by policing based on the color of their skin and the neighborhoods they live in. I am very aware of my privilege as a white woman. When I go to court with my students, I watch the judges and lawyers talk directly to me and overlook the Spanish-speaking parents for African American grandma. It's embarrassing and humiliating, but very clear I can make a difference with my white privilege. The seat I'm hoping to be appointed to is a community-based organization seat. There is no organization in the community that represents poor, disenfranchised youth and young adults whose families have been affected by policing and mass incarceration. In the beginning days, my vehicles were targeted and chasers were pulled over often because of the students of color in our cars. We had to wrap our cars in purple to signal, do not pull these cars over. I was there when graduate Paris Holloway was shot back by the police in the project, now long forgotten. I was there when my graduate mother was gunned down by gang violence and his brother wanted to graduate from high school, and in his honor, he did. And I was there when two strikes Dominic Corey came out of prison, needed a job, and now works for Settlement 14. My qualifications are solid. Learning Works represents the poorest people in Pasadena who are disproportionately affected by police.
Thank you, Ms. Rhan. Hold on one second. Are there any follow-up questions for Ms. Rhan? No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ron will exit the council chambers and our next candidate will come. Or applicant, I should say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was loud. Okay. Yeah, it's very
Welcome.
loud. It's very hot mic, right? They're not hearing it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I apologize in advance to everyone here.
Yeah.
It feels really hot. Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I come before you tonight with the full support of my nominating CEO, All Saints Church, where I have been employed for nearly 11 years. In my role at All Saints Church, I am delegated with the responsibility of overseeing the parish's work on a variety of peace and justice initiatives, and entrusted with the duty to work in collaboration with others to find solutions to challenges in our city. All Saints has a 138-year-old legacy of social justice activism and community service. It is a legacy I aim to live into each and every day. For more than 7 years, I have been involved with police reform efforts, including advocacy for civilian oversight, because this unique community of faith strongly believes we must be invested in ensuring that all members of our community are given dignity and respect. We recognize this isn't always given when the police interact with community members, and that must change. My skills and qualifications will be of great benefit to the Commission. I am a connector, highly collaborative, strategic thinker. I'm skilled in working through group conflict and challenges. I am an active listener, and I'm always willing to learn something new. These are just some of the qualities that I possess that have allowed me to well serve several community groups and coalitions, such as POP and CCOP, to serve as a board member to organizations like Learning Works and Planned Parenthood, and even serve on the Chiefs Community Advisory Committee. These experiences, combined with my passion for community oversight of the police, would be an asset to the Commission. Pasadena is my home. It is the place where I get to live out my values, both professionally and personally, and I want great things for the city, and that includes improvement in the relationship between our police and our community. A well-established oversight commission will aid in this effort. My goal is to serve Pasadena with everything that I have to offer. I hope that you will give me that opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Follow-up questions? Juliana, any follow-up questions? Okay, Sina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next applicant. Welcome, Ms. Abernathy.
Thank you, Mayor Goda.
So, Ms. Abernathy, the lights in front of you will turn green when we start. 30 seconds will be orange, and red will, your time has expired. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, your 2 minutes starts now.
Good evening, Mayor Gordo, Vice Mayor Wilson, and City Council members. It is an honor to have this opportunity to share some of the unique experience and expertise that I would bring to a community organization seat on the Police Oversight Commission. When I moved to Pasadena over 20 years ago, one of my priorities was to join community organizations so that I could serve in the community where I live. I've been a member of the Pasadena Alumni Chapter Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for over 20 years. I've been a member of the Pasadena Altadena chapter of the Links Incorporated for over 15 years. I've been active in both organizations. My Delta sisters and my Link sisters have expressed strong support for me to represent represent Pasadena Altadena Links Commission. Our Links chapters offered a mentoring program to young girls at John Muir High School for over 10 years. This program has now expanded to other Pasadena schools. Through our Links Up for Success mentoring program, we provided workshops for young girls to promote their success in their role as students and in their future careers. I am a clinical psychologist who has expertise in prevention and policing, particularly addressing factors associated with excessive use of force. My expertise in mental health, cultural competence, and group dynamics would allow me to make valuable contributions as a member of the Police Oversight Commission. As an African-American woman and a member of the Links, we want to contribute to transparency, accountability, and change policing here in Pasadena. I am ready to serve in this capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Abernathy, Doctor. And any follow-up questions from members of the council? Now's the time. Okay. That completes the presentations.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll just welcome the 4 other applicants back into the chambers for deliberations. And
Mr. Mayor, before we deliberate, is it okay if we hear public comment like we did public safety?
Mr. Hampton, we're having a hard time hearing you now.
No, I'm sorry. I said before we deliberate, is it okay if we go to public comments?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll go directly to public comment. Everyone will be afforded 1-minute public comment, then we can commence deliberations. Public comment?
So Mayor and the council, oh, I get feedback on this mic too. We will start public comment. Actually, give me a second. I want to read out the city clerk's office received extensive correspondence, which was all distributed to the council, has been posted online and made part of the record, but because of all the correspondence, I wanted to give it its due spot in this proceeding. On April 14th, when the Public Safety Committee met, the city clerk's office received the following numbers of letters in support of each candidate at that time. Juliana Serrano received 53 letters of support. Shoa Gepremian received 1 letter of support and 1 letter in opposition. Alexis Abernathy received two letters in support, 1 letter in opposition. Patrice Marshall McKenzie received 16 letters in support. Florence Annang received 37 letters in support. And at the time, Kenneth Roder had not received anything, and Mikala Rhan received 1 letter in support. On April 19th, for that meeting, when it was, at the time, I think it was because the 3 candidates were being considered for 1 position, Alexis Abernathy received 34 letters in support. Patrice Marshall McKenzie received 39 letters in support. Mikala Rhan received 23 letters in support. Juliana Serrano received 1 letter in support, and Kenneth Roder received 1 letter in support at that point. And for tonight's item, for this April 26th meeting, Alexis Abernathy received 10 letters in support. Florence Annang received 89 letters in support. Patrice Marshall McKenzie received 31 letters in support. Mikala Rhan received 15 letters of support. Juliana Serrano received 92 letters of support, and Kenneth Rotter received 1 letter of support. In addition, there were several letters that stated concerns regarding the selection interview process, specifically as it relates to the City Council to reconsider the Public Safety Committee's nominations for the community-based organization openings. That Florence Annang from the Pasadena NAACP and Juliana Serrano from All Saints Church, after they were interviewed, vetted, and unanimously selected. So all of those letters were posted online, distributed to the City Council, and are part of the record for this item. Thank you. Now to move to public comments.
Okay. Will each member of the public who's requested to be heard as for public comment as part of this agenda item will receive 1 minute. Mr. Clerk.
All right, so the first speaker that we have for 1 minute will be Reverend Dr. James and friends Jim A. Miley. Reverend Miley, you are in the meeting and you are unmuted. You have 1 minute. Are you able to unmute?
I'm able to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Here we go. 1 minute, starting now.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I'm speaking to you today to recommend Florence Annang from the NAACP for your vote and consideration. I've known Florence for 18 years, from the time that I moved into an apartment on Orange Grove Boulevard and Lake Avenue in Pasadena. And this entire 18 years, she has been living in the community of the people she serves in Pasadena. And I think that's a really important part of what it means to be in the community and represent the community. And I also wanted to share with you that I've personally seen her use cultural skills to help people from different viewpoints really be able to see how reality in a way that someone else sees. So I really think she has the community influence and the cultural skills that you're looking for on this commission, and I hope you'll give her your full consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is, do we have Julie McHugh? No, we do not. Brett Shears, followed by Elise Preston Mallory. Mr. Shears?
Hello, I'm here. Brett Shears?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Hello to the mayor and members of the city council. I'm speaking to voice my strong support for Florence Annang and Juliana Serrano for 2 of the community-based seats. I've submitted via email the comments that I made last time at the Public Safety Committee, stating how perfectly suited they are for this position. So I won't repeat them now, but instead, I just want to convey for those who were not there and may have not seen it on the video, that the support that was on display for these 2 women during the Public Safety Committee, it was overwhelming, so much so that it led almost immediately to unanimous decision to support their candidacies. I know this full body is always going to be the one that makes the final decision, and I'll never begrudge you that. You're definitely entitled. But I think the support shown for Florence and Juliana has been truly exceptional. You to and the council to consider that and weighted appropriately today. I also want to say that I might have lived on the same block as the good Reverend, and we both are very early because we are both very eager to support these candidates. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Elise Preston Mallory, followed by Carl Sulkin, followed by Anne Marie Ote. Ms. Mallory, go ahead. You have 1 minute.
Good evening, and thank you for taking my comments. I am a member and past president of the Pasadena chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and I'm supporting Patrice Marshall McKenzie to be selected as a community-based organization member on the Police Oversight Committee. When I take a look at the 11 seats for this committee, you made a decision to have 3 seats come from community-based organizations, so you would know that you have people on the commission to have the pulse of the community that is most impacted and affected by police bias that has led to the need for this commission. The Pasadena chapter of AKA has been serving this community since 1960 and has consistently been a go-to partner by other organizations in the community and local politicians to achieve objectives that benefit our community that we all have the honor of serving. Being a 24-year member of AKA, Patrice has been a major driver for helping us to step up and meet the needs of our community by leading many projects for our organization. We need the voice of Patrice on this commission and the skills that she brings to the table as a listener, convener, and problem solver. I realize you have a tough choice in front of you, but the track record of ongoing community involvement for members being chosen under community-based organizations should reign king. If you follow this, Patrice stands out as a Pasadena leader with empathy, commitment, and a history of service to help Pasadena be the best it can be. Thank you for your time.
Speakers when.
There's 15 seconds left. My apologies on that. Carl Selkin, followed by Anne-Marie Ote, followed by Rabbi Joshua Levine Grader. Mr. Selkin, unmute.
That was, did you not make a payment?
Are you able to unmute your Zoom?
Yeah, I have to switch back and forth from my Word document to unmute. Yes. Okay. So I'm coming to you as a member of the leadership quartet of the Social Justice Committee of Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. We had a vote on yesterday in support of the candidates, Juliana, Serrano, and Florence Annang. But we discussed a lot about the problems with the selection process where those two members had been unanimously approved, and then there was rescission of that action apparently. And we understand that it's difficult, it takes a lot of intestinal fortitude to watch sausage being made, but I think we need to support these two candidates for a number of reasons. Okay, these candidates were vetted and approved by the Public Safety Committee. They're our neighbors and partners for social justice. They have the requisite experience, knowledge, and dedication to justice that service on CPOC requires. And this dedication not only particular or narrow focus, which made POP and that.
Thank you. We'll bring in Anne-Marie Ote, followed by Rabbi Joshua Levine Grader, followed by Alan Spring. Ms. Ote, you have 1 minute.
Yes, thank you. Hello, Mayor and Council members. This is Anne-Marie Ote. I am a Pasadena resident, and like Carl, I am a member of the leadership group at the Social Justice Committee of Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. But I am speaking to you tonight also as a very proud and new member of NAACP. It is a historic group, of course, nationwide, but also here in Pasadena, where it has been for more than 100 years. And as part of their 100th anniversary celebration, they reached out to us, and it has been a productive and great partnership ever since. As I strongly encourage that you recognize the NAACP's strong role in Pasadena by supporting its candidate, Florence Annang, to be a member of the Police Oversight Committee. Thank you very much.
Mayor, I think one of our colleagues, I can hear, Mayor, one of our colleagues is, can someone let our colleague know that they're not muted?
My grandpa muted it.
Well, we're hearing something.
Oh, Mr. Madison. 1 second, I will, okay. He's muted now. Handled that. Thank you for letting us know. Rabbi Joshua Levine Grader has actually dropped off, so we will move to Alan Spring, followed by Peter Dreyer, followed by Pamela Kos. Mr. Spring, you have 1 minute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Alan Spring. I'm a Pasadena resident, and I urge you to appoint Juliana Serrano and Florence Annang to the Community Police Oversight Commission. They were both recommended unanimously by the Public Safety Committee and thoroughly interviewed the candidates and considered in depth the candidates' abilities. Please don't ignore the decision of this properly selected and very capable committee. I would hate for our city to pass up this opportunity to appoint these two vibrant, knowledgeable, and understanding women of color to our Community Police Oversight Commission. Thank you very much.
We will now welcome Peter Dreyer, followed by Pamela Kos, followed by Anita Mackey. Mr. Dreyer, you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Not surprisingly, I support Flo Annang and Juliana Serrano. I've worked with both of them. They're dynamite, overwhelmingly positive, diplomatic women of color who've had a lot of experience working with the police chief and the police department and working in the community. They're so overwhelming that they've gotten more popular votes than anybody else put together. But this isn't a popularity contest. This is about credentials and experience, and they clearly are at the top. So it concerns me that Councilmember Hampton last week decided to move that you not accept the recommendation of the committee that he's on, Public Safety Committee, and then move to a full council meeting. Okay, I get that. Jean Masuda and Andy Wilson and Felicia Williams agreed with him. And then you had 5 people come before you and give their 2-minute talk, and you didn't ask them one question. You didn't ask them one question. Right? You could have looked at their resumes and seen what they told you. So there's something fishy going on here. And I hope that you will accept the recommendation of the Public Safety Committee and not use POP or the police union or any other organization as a foil for your own cowardice in picking the right people.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Pamela Kos, followed by Anita Mackey, followed by Breed Justice, followed by Alan Edson. Ms. Kos, we need you to hit *6. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council people. If there was a job description for this appointment, it would have everything that Dr. Abernathy already possesses. Let's see. Prior experience in the police department as a psychological consultant, check. PhD in clinical psychology, check. African American, happens to be a woman, check. Extensive publication in biases, both implicit and explicit, check. Caring, compassionate, check. Excellent listener, team player prior to the service. I think you get my point. What else would you want, which leaves me confused as why there's still a discussion at this point regarding her appointment to the commission. Dr. Abernathy is just what the Oversight Commission needs. Having served alongside Alexis in the chapter of the Links, I can attest for many qualities and make her hands down the best and most qualified for the commission. With the continued and loud cry around the nation regarding police accountability with citizenship involvement, by selecting Alexis, she will bring an authenticity to the committee. Besides the obvious that she is a proud and unapologetically African-American woman, she is highly educated but relatable with a PhD, again, in clinical psychology, who regularly serves the community through various nonprofits. She's fair and compassionate, so I look forward to congratulating Alexis and the commission on her selection. Thank you.
The next speaker is Anita Mackey, followed by Breed Justice, followed by Alan Edson, followed by Pablo Alvarado. Ms. Mackey, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, your 1 minute starts now.
I'm speaking tonight for the League of Women Voters of the Pasadena area. And while the League does not support candidates, we do advocate for competency in governmental bodies like the Community Police Oversight Commission and transparency in governmental deliberations like the City Council. I must say that tonight I've been rather surprised that you didn't have a voting process figured out before the meeting. But given the current climate surrounding policing and police practices, we urge you to select a well-rounded, well-informed, and knowledgeable board to oversee our police department and to maintain the utmost transparency in this highly consequential process. Thank you.
I would make a note, Bree Justice, followed by Alan Edson, and it looks like Lois Gaston is with Alan Edson, so they'll be speaking from the same line. So Bree Justice, you have
Good evening. We're a collective of Pasadenans striving for a more equitable community. Respectfully, council members, these positions are for the community, and the community has spoken. Florence Annang and Juliana Serrano are the most qualified and prepared applicants for this role. Vote them in and let them get to work. Don't strip the voice of the community away from the Community Police Oversight Commission. Do that, and you risk losing any semblance of trust our community has left in the CPOC, being a good faith effort to improve community police relations. Flo and Juliana are experienced, well-versed in policing issues in Pasadena, supported by communities most impacted by policing, and ready to do the commission's hard work. Commitment to serving the community, specifically in the area of police oversight, is what we should be looking for, not running from, regardless of any overlap in the organizations these quality candidates serve. Vote independent thinking Flo and Juliana for our Police Oversight Commission. Thank you all for your time.
Alan Edson and Lois Gaston are on, I think, on the same call. So Gaston, sorry. Mr. Edson, there you go. You have 1 minute. Ready?
Greetings, Mayor Gordo and members of the City Council. I'm Alan Edson, President of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, Pasadena branch. You know of our history of advocacy for civil rights and social justice in Pasadena for over 100 years. I stand before you today to have you select the Pasadena branch of the NAACP for one of the 3 community-based organizations, the Police Oversight Commission, with Florence Annang being our representative. There are 5 extremely talented individuals seeking selection to represent organizations to be on the commission. The criteria for selection to the commission does not define a community-based organization or who has been doing the work. The discussion has focused on personalities, not the work of organizations. Here's a sample of a few of our
15 seconds.
In closing, I would like to stand with our allies and ask you to select All Saints Church and their representative, Juliana Serrano, and Alpha Kappa Alpha's representative, Patrice, McKenzie, to the Community Police Oversight Commission. Thank you.
Lois Edson.
Lois also submitted a letter, Mark.
Okay.
I was going to read her letter.
The letter has been distributed to the council. Is that correct, Mr. Edson?
I believe so.
Okay.
We have the letter.
So we're going to move on to then Pablo Alvarado. We'll bring in Mr. Alvarado. Mr. Alvarado, could you please unmute? And then followed by Tina Williams. Mr. Alvarado?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Thank you. 1 minute.
Great.
Go ahead.
Thank you. You know, last year, the NAACP and my organization, the ANDRÉ, the National Day Labor Network, called for mobilizations, and thousands of people came to the streets to demand racial justice in the middle of a pandemic. And that is the reason why you're having this conversation today. The cry for racial justice was loud and clear, and I hope that we don't have to do it again. For a police commission to deliver racial justice, you need people to actually...
At least in the council chambers.
Okay. So that's
my colleagues who are remote, if they can hear probably. Okay, in the chambers.
We hear him very clearly, Mayor. Mayor, we can hear him clearly.
Yes, Mayor. He's coming through clearly.
Okay. Pablo, I'm sorry that we interrupted you. You want to start over for 1 minute?
I do want to start over. Thank you. So last year, the NAACP and ANDRÉ, my organization, called for mobilization for racial justice, and thousands of people came out in the middle of the pandemic to demand racial justice. And that is the reason why you're having this conversation today. The cry for racial justice was loud and clear, and I hope we don't have to do it again. For a police commission to deliver racial justice, you need people who actually believe in racial justice. It's that simple, and that is Juliana and Florence. Having beneficiaries of white supremacy will not get you there. It is actually offensive to believe that a person who believes in racial justice, like Florence and Juliana, cannot be fair to a police officer. I've seen them both work with police officers all the time. Therefore, I urge you to vote for Juliana and Florence to become members of the police commission. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm getting a lot of text messages from people who have submitted speaker cards. Yes, we likely will get to you. We have a lot of people in the queue, and so we're working our way through the queue of speaker cards. I'm calling a few at a time. The next caller is Tina Williams, followed by Kimberly Douglas. And I don't think we have a Hunter Williams, so we go on to the Pasadena Organization for Progress with Ed Washaka. So first we have Tina Williams. Tina, you're unmuted.
Yes. Okay, can you hear me okay? Thank you, Mayor Gordo and members of City Council. I want to take this time to personally endorse Florence Annang for the commission seat, as well as 2 others. I've known Florence for a number of years through our mutual work with Harambe Ministries. Harambe Ministries has been in existence for over 37 years on the corner of Howard and Navarro, once called Blood Corner, as well as having the highest daytime crime rate in Southern California. We know these issues are systemic in nature. Florence understands that. She's worked with marginalized youth and adults at the grassroots level, and I watched her and have been impressed by her calm and focus in facing differing opinions. I would also like to endorse Dr. Alexis Abernathy, as well as Patrice, Marshall, McKenzie. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Kimberly Douglas, followed by Ed Washaka, followed by Mike Kinman. Kimberly, unmute your.
Yes, yes, I have. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I was glad to finally hear tonight the names Kendrick McDade, Reginald Thomas, and Anthony McLean, along with Christopher Ballou mentioned. Shortly after Kendrick McDade was killed in 2012, Florence Annang and Julia Serrano got involved in finding out how this happened and how to prevent it. So they have many years of experience that they have acquired and the expertise they've acquired over this time. And this is background the commission needs to know exists. They need to hear it and have at the table to be successful. I am concerned that the council seems poised to handicap this new commission. An overriding characteristic in Pasadena for anyone in decision-making role is that substance really matters. These two have been actively and incrementally successful, working to bridge police and community needs in Pasadena. These two have done their homework. They are up to speed and importantly have already been actively, constructively participating in the sphere of police and community interactions. Not an easy or quick process. We all know there will be another critical incident as the national scene daily reminds us. This commission must get up to speed and quickly and be ready. So the commissioners will need these two subjects and that have been nominated by the longstanding social justice and civil rights organizations in Pasadena, All Saints, the NAACP. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll bring in Ed Washaka, followed by Reverend Kinman, followed by Chelsea.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, Mayor and fellow council members. In 2014, The NAACP and All Saints Church joined other community organizations from the Coalition for Increased Civilian Oversight of Pasadena Police. From the first, the coalition demanded the city hire an independent police auditor and appoint civilian oversight of the police. They selected the NAACP and All Saints Church selected Florence Annang and Juliana Serrano, respectively, to represent them in that coalition. And because of their leadership, they have now nominated them to the Police Oversight Commission. These independent-minded women, one a Latina of immigrant parents, the other a Ghanaian raised by immigrant parents, will fairly and objectively stand up for the marginalized communities that so often suffer from violence and abuse of power from Pasadena's police authority. They have the requisite experience and knowledge. I can think of no women better qualified. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Reverend Kinman, followed by Chelsea, followed by Julieta Aragon.
Okay, can you hear me?
Go ahead. 1 minute.
Great. My name's Mike Kinman. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the rector of All Saints Church, the CBO sponsoring Juliana Serrano. And really my question is, are we actually serious about police oversight? We're already behind in setting it up. We call ourselves a progressive community, yet many other communities are far ahead of us. Truly right now, our only chance to show we care about just policing at all is to use this oversight commission and not play politics with its membership, but put on it the absolute strongest voices who won't be afraid to challenge our system of policing where it needs challenging and change it where it needs changing. We sponsor Juliana because she has nearly a decade of experience working on issues of police violence and police reform. She is deeply invested in and connected to every part of this community. And because frankly, she commands respect, she is fierce, and she will not let this commission be anything less than the absolute best it can be. We keep messing around with this. It's taken us forever to get this far. And now that we're here, it just feels like more of the same, and we're better than that. We have to be because people keep dying, and it's got to stop. Please affirm the unanimous recommendation of the Public Safety Commission and appoint Juliana Serrano to the Community Police Oversight Commission. Thank you for your time.
Chelsea, followed by Julieta Aragon, followed by Chris Okershauser. Chelsea, you can *6. If you hit *6, that will unmute you. There you go.
Steve Madison should be questioned about his past romantic involvement with Ms. Serrano, who is 23 years younger than Mr. Madison. Ms. Serrano and Mr. Madison should fully disclose their past romantic involvement and explain why that wouldn't impair the actual and perceived fairness and objectivity of the Police Oversight Commission. This is too important a job to be compromised by Mr. Madison's conduct.
Julieta Aragon, followed by Chris Okershauser, followed by Alan Shea. Julieta, unmute.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Julieta Aragon. I grew up in Pasadena. I have been a resident for the last 40 years. I have known Florence Annang and Juliana Serrano ever since I started getting involved in working with my community. These are women I respect, and I share their passion and values of keeping our community safe. Choosing Florence and Juliana will also be an example to our young women of color who might not be sure if their voices count. They will be the example of what is possible to achieve when you set your mind in helping your community. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Okershauser, followed by Alan Shea, followed by Heavenly Hughes, followed by Jackie Robertson Bailey. Baisley.
Okay.
Chris Okershauser, go ahead. 1 minute.
Thank you. The combined experience of Flo Annang and Juliana Serrano over the past several years of working in and with Northwest community residents and leaders on police reform issues, as well as with Pasadena police leadership on improving relations with this community, make them uniquely fitted to offer help to the new commission as it undertakes a critical, high-stakes job in difficult times. Due to their work in the community and with our police department to close a critical gap of trust, both are seen as trustworthy by both the community and the police. This promising effort of giving a voice in civic affairs to representatives of those who have had none in policing matters should take advantage of these two exceptional women, Florence Annang and Juliana Serrano, and welcome them to the commission. And thank you.
Welcome, Alan Shea. Mr. Shea, unmute. You have 1 minute.
Thank you once again, gentlemen and women of the City Council. Again, this is so imperative. We absolutely need Dr. Abernathy. I watched 4 hours of the Public Safety Commission meeting or committee meeting, and she truly demonstrated beyond all of these other candidates. I don't know any of the candidates other than Ms. Serrano, but I can tell you from my experience in this community and being on a commission and understanding the importance of this time in our life, we need Dr. Abernathy. I highly recommend, and I strongly recommend that if you didn't see her interview tonight, you missed a true gift to us. I would highly recommend it with Ms. Serrano as a recommendation. Please adhere to that. Thank you.
Heavenly Hughes. Bring you in. Have you unmute? You're almost there. One more time.
Are you there? Can you hear me? Hello, community and council members and Mayor Victor Gordo. Simply, we want to be sure, as Brief Justice says, do not strip the community when it comes to the community oversight. We all hear the voices of the community loudly tonight, and I hear clearly and can easily tally that Florence Annang, Patrice, McKenzie, and Juliana Serrano are the ones who are nominated from the voices of the community. Thank you.
The last, well, Jackie Robinson Baisley is the last one that we have confirmed in the queue, so we'll bring Ms. Robinson Baisley in. Jackie, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, City Clerk.
You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. I know you have a difficult decision ahead of you. I've been keeping track of the proceedings, and I'm here today to let you know that process matters, especially for the decision of both that seat and the council itself. I wholeheartedly agree with the recommendation coming from Public Safety Committee to appoint Florence Annang and Juliana Serrano. And with regard to the third position, I support Patrice Marshall McKenzie, but I'd also like to state that we are all well aware that the council has both the duty and the ability to make decisions outside of the recommendations of whatever commission is seated and whatever process you stated before. So I'd like to consider in light of the qualities and abilities of the remaining candidates, to actually consider appointing the 3 remaining candidates. I don't personally see any harm in the process for that and in the future composition of the commission, because it will still result in a commission that's even numbered. The council itself is even numbered, and there are various times where that would result in a tied decision. Considering the level of decisions that we'll be making, I think that will be something that the committees can support. So good luck with.
Mayor and Council, that completes the public comment that we have in the queue. We were not able to locate some of the speakers, so that completes the comments that we were able to find in the queue.
Okay.
Should we give our names?
So if we'll, Mr. Hampton is, before we do that, let me see if there are any questions or comments. Vice Mayor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor.
And I know people were disappointed that this body didn't vote last week to fully adopt at least the 2 recommendations for public safety. I did watch all the 5 videos and I was very impressed by the group, and frankly was perplexed about who would be best. It's a little bit like the consent calendar. I think this additional level of scrutiny is in the best interest of the city and the success of the Police Oversight Commission. So I ask that people really interpret this as a way of us being really committed to having the highest quality commission in front of us. And I really appreciated the 5 candidates coming back again. That was very helpful to me. And in as much as I respect the Public Safety Committee, I think this commission really should be held to the highest standard. And I think that was at least my intent to show no disrespect to our public safety colleagues, but really to do what is in the best interest of assembling that. So I thank once again the applicants for coming back. Had a chance to watch the video again, read the applications. I'm really excited to have such a high quality group and looking forward to appointing this group as soon as possible and feel like I know them better. So I think this process is actually working better.
Before we turn to names. No? Oh, Mr. Masuda?
Thank you, Mayor. I too think all the candidates were all qualified. They all have a long history of service and community work, and all are so deserving, and they were all so impressive. So I look forward to the comments that all the council members make. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Otherwise, I'll turn to the first person whose hand was raised, Mr. Hampton.
Yep, so I am ready to give my list, and I don't want to have to belabor it, but, I think, my first pick would be Patrice Marshall McKenzie. Marshall McKenzie, I apologize. And then Dr. Abernathy and Florence Annang. And based on those 3 names, I just think that they have a diverse range of thought and would be very successful on our community police commission. Thank you.
Next, we could go by seniority.
Can we adopt that rule for all discussions?
With the exception of the mayor, of course.
I'm happy to go next, Mayor. I haven't changed my mind since the Public Safety Committee. And I would say just as a prefatory matter that, we didn't really flesh out very well when we formed the commission what we meant by the community-based organizations. I think we felt it was sensible to have 3 members in addition to the ones that the council and mayor nominated that represented community-based organizations. But there's really no rule book to go by. And so I suppose each of us is applying our own sort of template to that. For me, I think we have to try to assemble a commission that reflects the community that's served. And I'm mindful that we're in a census year, and certainly Latinos are an important part of our community. I would imagine that we'll be 40% or so of Pasadena. I also am extremely sensitive to the arguments that people of color, and particularly African Americans, have been far disproportionately the victim of police abuse in our nation. And the history of racism that we have against African Americans. So certainly I would hope and expect that we'll have strong African-American participation. And I know the city attorney will admonish us that because of the $100 stipend or something, we need to be measured in our comments, but I do think it's fully appropriate that this commission reflect the community that we serve and reflect the communities that have been impacted by, policing, and regrettably in many communities in our country, police abuse. I also think that for me, the organization that's represented is important. It's important in terms of what the track record is of involvement in these issues. It's important for me, for the sort of breadth and scope of the reach of the organization in the community. In other words, we would hope that these commissioners will be ambassadors for the work that we're doing to ensure that we have appropriate policing in Pasadena. And I think, the ability to represent all corners of the community through the organization is really important. So, as I said, I'll just cut to the chase. My choices continue to be Florence Annang from the NAACP, Juliana Serrano from All Saints Church, and Mikala Rhan from Learning Works and the other organizations that she's familiar with. I think they reflect a cross-section of the community that we serve and represent organizations that in their each way are extremely important. I would echo my colleagues, though. I think all of the candidates are qualified. Some have not been involved in events in Pasadena significantly. I mean, Dr. Abernathy comes to mind. She is certainly someone I would like to see a lot more of going forward. I think Mr. Kennedy made the point at Public Safety that he didn't know her, even though she'd been in the community for some time, and I'm in the same boat, and I'd like to get to know her better and like to see her involved. But I think for this commission, which I've said before, maybe the most important one we've ever impaneled, people that have proven track records of commitment and leaning in and actually showing up and doing the work is extremely important also. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. Mr. Masuda?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I was just so impressed with all the speakers and the candidates, and listening to what Mr. Madison just said, I too can support Florence Annang and Juliana Serrano, and I strongly support Dr. Mikala Rhan because I know her best, I know her work, I know her leadership, I know all the work that she has done. I've been to her graduations, and again, I can't say enough for all the other candidates, and I would like to see us have a very strong commission, and I again support Juliana Serrano, Florence Annang, and Dr. Mikala Rhan. Thank you.
Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. And going back to Councilmember Madison's comments, I think each one of us views this commission and process differently. And I think that's sort of born out of the fact that we kind of didn't really have a clear process here. So I think we're all applying our own, sort of process to this. So I selected my top three just based on how I normally select my commissioners. I look at their professional qualifications and experience. I look at their community involvement, especially leadership roles in the community. And then lastly, really importantly, I look at their understanding of the commission and their expectations for the commission. So based on that, one thing that stands out to me of my three candidates, that would be Patrice McKenzie, Dr. Mikala Rhan, and Dr. Alexis Abernathy, is that the three of them professionally have careers and training that require them to preserve confidentiality and also be unbiased. And so that's what I tended to look for in those three candidates, and they very clearly stood out in that vein. In terms of community involvement, they've had various leadership roles, and we have a record of the decisions that they have made in those leadership roles. That was impressive to me. And lastly, they represent three very distinct organizations. And when you look at the support letters came from a very wide range of organizations, neighbors, classmates from high school. I mean, a very broad spectrum of Pasadena support. So those would be my three. All five of the candidates are very, very good. I think we're really lucky and fortunate that we live in a city where people are involved and they care about this. And so it was very, very difficult to make this decision. But I think just those are my criteria based on how I view the commission and how I normally select my commissioners. Thank you.
Next. So I'll just go, Ms. Rivas.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And thank you to each of the applicants for stepping up to serve in this vital new commission. I know there've been a lot of twists and turns through the process, and they've each handled it with grace, so I'd like to thank them for that and for joining us here tonight. For me, the top two applicants who've always stood out are, of course, Juliana, Serrano, and Florence Annang. So it was no surprise to me that they were unanimously recommended by the Public Safety Committee. I think they stand out for a couple of reasons. First, of course, for their own individual records of service to our community. And of course, there's thoughtful statements made tonight and at the Public Safety Committee. Second, of course, also their organizations are, I don't need to belabor the point that the NAACP and All Saints Church are longstanding pillars of our community. But most important, for me, at least, was of the five applicants, they are the ones who have been organizing around this issue of police reform. They've already been engaging with community on this issue. They've already been engaging with our police department. They have relationships up and down the chain of command in our police department that they can build upon and move forward in this new role. I also think it's important we consider what message perhaps we'd be sending if we send to the community if we don't select both Ms. Annang and Ms. Serrano tonight, especially after the unanimous endorsement of the Public Safety Committee. I worry it could be seen as saying that there's only room on this commission for on the Police Oversight Commission for one person who's been actively organizing for police reform. Now, I don't think that's necessarily the intent of any of my colleagues, and we also don't know who the other 8 members of the commission will be, but unfortunately that could be the takeaway. So I just want to make sure that's in the forefront of our mind, that it could be interpreted that when the council sat down together, we chose not to put Ms. Serrano and Ms. Annang on the commission, especially in light of some of this discussion we had at our last meeting. So to wrap up, my top 2 choices are, of course, Ms. Serrano and Ms. Annang, and then my third choice would be Patrice Marshall McKenzie.
Thank you. Let's see who's left. Vice Mayor Wilson.
I appreciate, I think, the comments that Councilor Rivas just made. So I too support Ms. Annang and Ms. Serrano. They have been real champions for this topic. I think they do represent the voice of the community and I think key organizations that have been at the forefront of this issue. I think the hard choice was the third one, honestly. And I'm going to go with Alexis Abernathy. I think having thought leadership in, this is new territory, and I think we can learn from what's going on across the country. And I think having a forward-looking view around kind of evolving thinking. So my view is that I think Alexis Abernathy brings, I think, kind of maybe a more strategic kind of, maybe I'm going to say academic, because that sounds maybe not all that relevant, but I do think there's thought leadership in forging a new commission. And I think I'm excited to make sure that perspective is part of that team. I'm going to call it a team. It is hard. I would articulate and I've said this publicly before, the commission needs to work like a city council. It needs to be a team, and it's really hard to choose, players in a vacuum. So we're choosing three, and I feel at least the two that I have in the field with Ms. Annang and Mr. Serrano, I think Alexis Abernathy would be the next kind of best player on the field. So those would be my choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Kennedy?
Thank you, Mayor. The Pasadena branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People has a long and storied career on the side of justice. And I believe that organization will continue to play a role in fashioning arguments on how to move our community forward, not just for African Americans, but for all groups, ethnic groups, gender, preference, etc., in our community. And for that reason, the only choice there is Florence Annang, and I would wish her well in her role. The next person I'd like to offer is from an organization that also has a storied career in Christendom. And I've seen liberation theology of late come out of Fuller Seminary. And that is something that I think is critically important because it also, like the NAACP, is stridently on the side of justice. And I didn't see any applicant or candidate who had such strong academic credentials in terms of published areas of expertise, who has also worked with police departments. Certainly, Mikala Rhan has extreme experience that all of us, I think, respect and appreciate. But on balance, in terms of the glue that brings this commission together, and it's seemingly that all four applicants that we've heard from tonight happen to be extremely qualified women. And that feels good. That feels good for where we're going to go as a commission, as a body, in terms of police oversight. So I gladly recommend Alexis Abernathy, Dr. Alexis Abernathy, for the full council's consideration. And then thirdly, I think advocacy does matter, and balanced advocacy does matter. And I have confidence in the representative from All Saints Church in the Office of Creative Connections. I think she'll be fair. I think she'll be balanced. And I think she has a laser focus on justice. And whether you come from a traditional policing background or progressive policing background or just community involvement, you get that from Juliana Serrano. Those are my recommendations to my fellow colleagues. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. So in looking at all of the applicants, I'd like to thank all of the applicants for being willing to put their name forward, being willing to attend the Public Safety Committee, and participating in the process. Process is imperfect, no question. But we're treading new ground here, and we're looking for a commission that's balanced, a commission that is populated by individuals who understand subject matter, who are willing to listen, who are willing to be fair, and also have direct involvement in the community. As I look at the candidates, I was very attracted to the fact that we have 3 candidates that have a professional or a job working directly with the community, particularly with families and young children. And so where I come down on it is, I believe Ms. Annang, who works directly with kids, but I was also representative of the NAACP, as well as tied into voices in the community that have argued for police oversight for quite some time. I also think that Ms. Rhan is qualified because of her work in the community, dealing directly with families and kids, particularly families and kids who find themselves in the court system. And then Dr. Abernathy has a unique experience because of her clinical background, as well as mental health background. And so as we go through all of the candidates, again, all of the candidates, Ms. Serrano, Ms. McKenzie, all very qualified. But I do think that we're looking to build a commission with different sets of skills, direct involvement, and that's where I come down on my thing. So Ms. Annang, Ms. Rhan, and Ms. Abernathy, Dr. Rhan, Dr. Abernathy.
If that's the case, then I would like to motion Florence Annang, Dr. Abernathy, and Juliana Serrano.
Before we get to that, let's see where we are, Mr. Hampton, in terms of the first round.
Oh, according to that, I mean, if I counted this up right, I'm sure everybody counted this up right. I mean, it's 1, 2. There's only 8 of us. Florence got 8.
Let's let the city clerk.
I'll announce the tally.
Yeah.
I did stats and I. That's fine. Go ahead.
I don't want to step on your toes, sir. Dr. Alexis Abernathy received 5 votes. Florence Annang received 7 votes. Patrice McKenzie received 3 votes. Juliana Serrano received 5 votes. And Mikala Rhan received 4 votes. So the top 3 would be Dr. Abernathy, Florence Annang, and Juliana Serrano. We do have a public comment speaker that came into the queue late, and I spoke with the mayor, and we will bring that person in. Jasmine Abdullah Richards will come in. Ms. Richards, sorry you joined late, so we didn't catch you, but we want to give you your 1 minute now. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Awesome. Thank you. I would like to nominate Ms. Abernathy and Mrs. Patrice. Also, I would like to let you guys know that you guys need to fire Chief Perez and also Steve Mermel. We know it takes 5 city council members to vote Mermel out, and we are imploring you to do so. You owe it to your constituents. Steve Mermel and John Perez have been covering up the murder of Anthony McLean. We want Edwin DuMcGuindon fired without pay and prosecuted, and we will also be going to Los Angeles District Attorney Gascon. We implore you to revisit the city charter because as it stands, Steve Mermel will have full authority over this police oversight board. Even once they make the recommendation Steve Mermel will have the final say. He is not held accountable because he is selected by you guys and not elected by the people. And so I implore the city council to vote Steve Mermel out because you guys owe it to us. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to second Council Member Hampton's motion.
So, Mr. Hampton, will you repeat the motion for the record?
The motion is to appoint Florence Annang, Juliana Serrano, and Dr. Abernathy to the Community Police Oversight Commission. Were you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we could hear you.
Okay.
Okay, motion on the floor is for Ms. Rhan, Dr. Rhan, no, I'm sorry,
Florence Annang,
Florence Annang.
Alexis Abernathy, and Juliana Serrano.
Okay.
Seconded by by Councilmember Kennedy. Did you want me to roll call?
Yeah.
Councilmember Hampton,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Madison,
Yes.
Councilmember Masuda,
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gordo.
Yes.
The motion is approved without opposition.
Mayor, is it possible that we could bring, however you would like to, just to congratulate those members, however you would like to do it? We'd like to congratulate them.
We'll have Juliana Serrano and Alexis Abernathy maybe step to the podium quickly, each one, and then I will try and grab Florence. She just left the room quickly.
But also, could we, Mayor, express our gratitude to the other applicants? They're outstanding.
Would like to congratulate the two of you. There's no greater responsibility than public service and the service in our community. You both stepped up. Here's Florence. And as you can see, the decision by the council was not easy when you have people such as yourselves who have a record of service in this community and the qualifications to serve. And I'd also like to congratulate and thank the other candidates who, again, witnessed a difficult process when it comes to selecting commissioners. For the first time, the public gets to see what council members wrangle with privately, usually trying to select representatives to various commissions, boards, and regional bodies. And so you get a glimpse of some of the internal individual members. Congratulations. I know that the council is pleased with the selection of each of you individually and all of you collectively. Yes, so no. So the process that we've outlined is now members of the council will submit their names. Once they submit their names, then the full commission will be seated at one time. So thank you, and thank you to the other candidates as well.
Thank you.
I do think on a related note, as we come back with the full commission to seat the entire commission, we should have operating protocols. Individual